Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love to wear helms of the elf variety.
Huh.
Yeah, but you didn't know that.
I did not.
Well, learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Today, you're going to learn lots of new things.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great episode.
And before we get into the episode, let's talk a little bit about how people can support us, get a hold of us, stay in contact with us. If you are new to Card Talk, we just got out of our extravaganza month, and you got to meet Matt, and who is the blog master reviewing the card pool one card at a time over at cardtalk2018.com, which is our blog. If you want to know or see anything that we have at Card Talk, you can go over there. He catalogs all the things on top of keeping up with us for card reviews. And then Micah does Second Breakfast, and then Grant is along for the ride. He is in and out sometimes, but he's still here, help supporting us behind the scenes. And lastly, if you want to become a patron and help keep the lights on here at the podcast, which if you notice, we just lost a patron there. Ted's lights just went down. Feel free to check us out over at patreon.com/cardtalk2018. So, Ted, my friend,
Yo,
what is the card we're talking about today?
Today's card is Elfhelm.
Oh,
And you may be
surprise.
asking, which Elfhelm? Because there are several.
Yeah.
And today we're covering the Tactics Ally version of Elfhelm, which originally premiered in the Mountain of Fire pack, which is going to be repackaged in some type of format.
It already was.
It already was, is what I meant.
Yep. It was definitely released in the Return of the King.
In the Return of the King, right, which is a recent.
Well,
release.
very recent, yes.
Right, yeah, okay. So yeah, let's just dive into Elfhelm third version. Because he has a leadership hero version and he has another ally spirit version.
And
he's got the same.
I was going to say, I think the spirit version was first.
Yes,
and then I
it
think
came out
this
much like first cycle.
Yeah, Dead Marshes. And then I think the Tactics version that we're talking about today was second, right? And then I think the Dream Chaser cycle came out after.
Came last.
Yeah, so
I don't remember.
I think
well
that's the way it works.
But anywho,
yeah, just go with me.
He's got the same stats as his spirit ally. So he costs 4, 1 willpower, 2 attack, 2 defense, 3 hit points. He's got the traits Rohan Warrior. He's unique, but he has an action to spend 1 resource from a Rohan hero's resource pool to put Elfhelm into play from your hand under your control. At the end of the phase, discard Elfhelm if he is still in play.
Yeah. That's interesting. Should we get a little bit of the rulesy stuff out of the way first?
Sure.
Yeah. So Ted, do I have to have a sphere match if I am going to play Elfhelm from my hand?
No. His action is going to just suspend a resource from a Rohan hero's pool to put him into play, yes. Which is different than playing him.
Right. Okay. And then he goes into the discard pile. What if I played him using sneak attack instead of this? Is that the same thing, or is that different?
Well, you're not really using his action, so you would be following the rules of sneak attack instead, which is to shuffle him back in your deck as opposed to discarding him.
Shuffle him back in your deck? Which sneak attack are you confused with? Sneak attack comes back into your hand.
Hand, that's what I was thinking of.
Shuffle it back into your hand, which means he just goes back into your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's what sneak attack does.
So, what do you think of Tactics Elfhelm? Like,
Um, he he reminds me. I think he's a pretty good. Is the short version. Um,
okay,
because
should we
being
ring this
able,
guy?
he's versatile. The thing is, are you playing him for his like? Are you going to hard cast him? Is the
Mhm.
question.
Right.
Like, Dave, would you play 4 resources to have him on the table as an ally?
Um, maybe in a pinch. He's
Right.
a
If you
little under
really,
cost. No, he's correctly costed. His stats plus hit points add up to 8. Divided by 2 gives you 4.
Mhm.
But he doesn't have anything special. He's just a beefy stats guy, right?
Right, right.
And
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's a feel bad if you don't cheat him into play somehow with either his ability or with the Imrahil warrior ability, or by reducing his cost with Theodred, like
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
the numerous ways. So, you know, if all of those things didn't exist, I think I would be okay. Like, he would be an okay ally, to bring into play. I'd much rather spend 4 on Treebeard than I would on
Right.
this guy. But
Right. If you're gonna like you don't put him in your deck, just to hard cast him.
right.
He's in there for his ability. Like
Mm-hmm.
you pretty much want to run him exclusively if you have a single Rohan hero, and that's the only criteria, which is
Right.
really really excellent.
Mm-hmm. And so, and the other thing is if you use his ability, if you're leaning into the Rohan archetype, then he gets discarded, which is kind of the other place you want Rohan characters to be, because you have all the ways to recur Rohan
Oh
characters
yeah.
from,
Oh
so
yeah.
it's like, it's not so bad that he's discarded, right? What is it, like
Yeah.
Haragrim or Guthween, right? The sword, one of the swords brings a character from the disc pile back into your hand. And so, like, there's just a lot of, or and then who's gambling, maybe gambling.
Yeah, you could
Now I
put
gotta
him
look up.
back into your hand with gambling ally.
Right.
Um, he will also trigger depending on when you play him, because he's discarded at the end of the phase, so he will trigger guy that benefits from that. Aomir,
Aomer,
tactics
right.
tactics Aomir says when an ally, if an ally has left round or if a character has left play, give him +2 attack, like limit once
Mm-hmm.
per round. So if you spend before the quest phase begins, at the start of the quest phase, you could spend a resource from a Rohan's pool, put him into play, quest for 1, and then after the quest phase is done, he's discarded. And then Aomir gets the bonus for the round.
Right. And it's
I'm gonna double check that, but
it's pretty good. I'm actually looking. I thought one of the swords triggered off of somebody going into the discard pile.
yeah, Aomir gets +2 until the end of the round. Even if you feed him, like let's say you play
Yeah.
him with his ability during the combat phase, he blocks or attacks or whatever, and he's still alive, you could play Ride to Ruin,
Mm-hmm.
which is a spirit event that says discard a Rohan character to put 3 resources, or excuse me, put 3 progress on a location.
And that
Right. And
character could be already used, right?
yeah, so he leans heavily into the Rohan archetype. And what's neat is the exact same rules question you started with, right? You can play 3, you can have a mono spirit Rohan deck,
Mm-hmm.
right? And play like Eowyn and like Theoden, right? And all the spirit stuff. And he can go into your deck just to trigger those things.
Right. Right.
And in a pinch, I mean, you're like, oh, I'm short 2 attack. Boom. 1 resource. Put him into play, 2 attack. If you get an
Right.
extra He's an extra action for one resource.
Right.
Like comes into play, his body can defend an attack,
Right.
something you weren't expecting. Like it's
Right.
great.
The
Yeah.
one thing, if you bring him in during the combat phase, he just can't archery soak for you because archery is done before the first action window in the
The
combat
first
phase.
action window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was right. I was talking about Guthwine. Like
Mhm.
if the character that Guthwine is on kills the enemy, destroys the enemy, the ally gets returned. An ally gets returned from your hand. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And like so, like we've been saying, there's all these mechanics. Maybe not all these mechanics, but you know, um, the very thematic thing that Rohan does is is die and go to the discard pile, right? Ride to ruin,
Hmm.
all the things that it does, the very moving parts of the movies, right? And so, so it's not horrible that this guy discards himself because you can get him back using the archetype on top of other ways to recur allies, right? Like so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 So he synergizes with uh just a bunch of the Rohan, and he's in these Rohan traded, so he can benefit stuff like astonishing speed. Right. You could play him in the quest phase, quest for 1, astonishing speed, all Rohan get +2.
Right.
Um so he's warrior traded, which is not strong because he's really not gonna like stay in like to
Well,
play him
but
as a
you could put him
body.
into the Immerhill deck, right? Like that's the thing that you could do there, or it gives
Yeah,
you a bucket of stats to put in an Immerhill deck.
yeah, that's true. What's kind of neat is like if you play Imrahil and a Rohan hero, which because then if he's in your hand, you
Right.
can play him with your Rohan hero's resource. But if he comes out of your deck, he also matches Tactics Imrahil, so he's not like so he's still something you pull out,
Right.
right? So he could be anywhere, hand or deck, and he'll come out,
Right. Which
which is
is
good.
yeah,
Not the strongest choice, but he's better than
he's a choice.
yeah, he's a choice exactly. So um, he's pretty versatile.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the next question is like, there's 3 versions
That's
of
exactly
Elfhelm.
where I was going to go. Right.
How does he weigh versus his other ally versus his hero?
Right. Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I mean, I've played the tactics version of Elfhelm more than I've played the hero or the um, spirit version of him. Um, I'm not sure the spirit version of him, where if you raise your threat from questing unsuccessfully, you reduce your threat by 1. Uh, like
Well,
you're
yeah, his
playing to
his
lose the game, right? Like that's the playing to lose the game thing, and that
um
maybe early in
so
the game that was a little bit
his
easier, but
um
I mean it does counteract Doom, right? That was the thing. Like,
yeah, so
hey,
his
here's a
spirit his spirit version's a little wider than that. It is response after your threat is raised as the result of questing unsuccessfully, but also by an encounter or quest card effect.
right,
So an encounter card effect is like literally any encounter card,
right.
which is doomed, or a treachery that says raise your threat by 1
A
for each ally
shadow
you
is a
have.
shadow effect. That's not shadow effects are not encounter cards. They're shadow
Um,
cards. So that was a ruling.
okay, that was specified.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So his his spirit version is good. Like it is strong, especially if you're getting
You're
if you're
being generous on the strong.
it well, because in a Rohan deck, you're usually playing Theoden a lot of times. It depends on just
Mm-hmm.
what you're going for. Like, if you're playing Theoden, and you're only paying 3 for him because he reduces the cost of Rohan ally. That's
That's all
a
right.
really good bargain to get his
Right.
abilities and to get his stats. But his like they have two very different abilities.
Right. Like this is the you wouldn't you wouldn't be upset if you bend the rules. You wouldn't be upset that there's two versions of Elfhelm on the board because they don't lean into each other's abilities or anything. They do totally different things.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So it
like
depends. Like, do you need help with your combat actions? Well, then the tactics version. Do
mhm.
you need help with um, controlling your threat? Well, then the spirit ability is good for that. So
Right.
they each have different uses.
Right.
And same thing is his hero version is very different.
Right. And we did a show on his hero version. And
Yeah.
when I first saw Elfhelm, I thought that it was gets plus stats for every mount, but it's not plus stats for every mount. It's
Plus stats for each
for just a mount.
sphere.
If it has a mount, it
If
gets
you have a
this.
mount and you have that sphere. Now,
Right.
if you have multiple spheres, you get the bonus for having a
Right.
single
But
mount, which we talked about.
as long as the hero has one mount, yeah, it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna boost it +7 because you have 7 horses on somebody.
Right. Right.
So,
Um.
but back to the tactics version, I think
Yeah.
out of all of those, they're all so different that there's
Hmm.
not really an Elfhelm competition, right? You don't come to the table and you're like, guys, I'm playing Elfhelm hero. Sorry, like,
Sorry, other Rohan decks.
yeah.
Um.
I think that this version of Elfhelm you know, is competitive with the other ones in terms of playability and, you know,
Agreed.
and they're,
Yeah.
nobody's necessarily inspired to play Elfhelm all the time, but it's fun to play. I don't know if I really love my building an Elfhelm deck or not here, Ted, but
But I like if you look at the Rohan archetype, the hero lends into that because of like mounts as part of that.
right.
But it's odd because he's leadership. A lot of Rohan archetype decks tend to be spirit and
Spirit and
or
tactics.
tactics, or where a lot of the Rohan cards fit in, even though there's some in all spheres.
Right.
Um, and I think this one belongs in tactics, and it fuels the archetype, and the ability is just generally helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. This is a toolboxy card. I don't know if you get 3 of in any deck that you run. I mean,
you can,
you
because the thing
could,
is,
but
like, running 3, because he's not, you don't put him on the like he's more like an event than an ally.
mm-hmm. Right.
Because you're playing him for his action to come into the turn and then he goes away. So running
Event
3
Elfhelm.
copies.
I love that idea. Event Elfhelm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a sneak attack without needing a sneak attack.
Right.
Right? Like he
Right.
is the
Built
sneak
in.
attack.
Right. He's the built-in sneak attack for himself. Right.
And you don't have to combo him. I mean, he does combo with anything else that leads play, like Leadership Prince Imrahil.
Right.
He combos with Valiant Sacrifice out of
Mhm.
Leadership to draw cards. But a ton of triggers
Yeah.
that we've talked about on some other shows. But he fits well into the archetype, and that's what's great.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's just kind of I don't know, like a decent, unique ally. I'm not gonna MOTK this guy.
No,
I
he's a
can.
terrible target for a Messenger of the King. He literally has no ability
He's
as a
got no
hero.
ability, right?
He's got no ability as an ally, really.
Right.
If, like I said, if you hard cast him, you gotta be really like, holy crap! I have no allies in my hand, and I need some in play.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, there is a reason to pay 4 for him, but like I opened up the show, it's just a feel bad if you have to pay full price for him.
yeah, you virtually never do that. You want to use him for his ability.
Yep.
So, but it's cool.
Yep. Well, how about Elfhelm's art?
I mean, all of his art is different, which is kind of cool. There's different artists for each one.
Hmm.
Um, I like this art. He's
Right.
s- he looks valiant.
He's going to make
Yes.
a valiant sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks like he's ready to go.
Of the
He's got a
three
horse.
art, I like this one the most.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's says a lot because the spirit Elfhelm is a Magali. So
yeah, that's early Magali though. Like, not that but you could tell how her craft grew over the years
over
as she was
yeah,
drawing
you
stuff.
can see it improve
Yeah, which
for sure.
it started here, but I like the kind of the upward angle that you're, facing here, because I think Elfhelm was one of the marshals of of the Rohirrim. Like I think he was in charge of some. This is where we need Grant, right, to figure out exactly what Elfhelm. Like Elfhelm wasn't just a dude. I think he was like he may have been Eomer's second in command or something. Like
Yeah.
so,
Uh,
so,
he was
and
the
this one,
marshal who governed the riders and the other armed men of the garrison of Edoras from the year 3012 to 3019.
okay, so that would be through the War of the Ring. See, I said a marshal. Yeah,
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
that was pretty good.
you nailed it.
I'm. Who needs Grant? Ha! But I just
I was
like
always
the
curious in his I always thought his name was weird. You're like Elf Helm, and
yeah,
he's a man
right,
from Rohan,
yeah, yeah. There's got to be some story somewhere about how
Yeah, I'm
Elfhelm
sure there's
got
a
his name,
name where his name comes from and
right?
but
Because that's surely not his
that's
first name, right? Man of Rohan with the name Elfhelm.
yeah, I don't know. So I'm
I don't know.
sure someone is reciting it to their device
Yes.
as we speak.
I don't know.
But we'll go ahead and put him through the ringer, huh?
Yeah, should we ring this guy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, maybe it's been a long extravaganza month and you've forgotten what we do here at Card Talk. We rank cards on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, or one of the best cards in the game, and a 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it came. So, Ted, how elfy are you feeling?
Um, on a scale of 1 to elf, I am a helm. Um, yeah, and it fits into the Rohan archetype. And I generally, if I'm playing any Rohan heroes, like I always look at them
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter. Just a single Rohan hero, you're like, cool, I can put him in my deck. So, but I guess it's just I don't know, like five, like middle of the road, like five, because it's pretty helpful. And there's maybe only one. The only other similar effect I can think of it is there's that Dunedain.
The Ranger of Cardalon.
Yeah, Ranger of Cardalon. Very similar ability, but you have to have a
Neutral
Dunedain.
comes into play.
Um,
Yeah. Cost 4.
yeah, but this has less of a stipulation because you have to engage an enemy, and this guy you can just play him as an action.
Right.
Um, but I give him a 5. What about you?
Yeah, I'm. Here's the problem. If you're playing with just the standard card pool or the revised card pool or, whatever, without any fan made stuff, Rohan is a hard archetype to kind of get off the ground. Like,
Yep.
and that said, it never really dawned on me to go back into some of my earlier decks where I was playing just like Spirit Aowen, and then when this card came out, just kind of slot in a card or two, a copy or two of this, um, because you could absolutely do that, right? Like this is almost like Aowen's guard, right? I don't know, but that's not who Elfhelm was in the in the books or anything, but like but that's all you need. So, maybe it's worth it to go back and look at some of my earlier decks and see, if I could sneak in a couple of copies of this, and maybe that deck gets better. That said, I think he's good, but I don't think that I just don't look toward him much. And so, like, I'm gonna have to give Elfhelm a 7.
Sure.
Like, I think it's a fun ability, but you're just not paying for him.
Right. You're well, like I said, you're playing him like an event for that one resource,
Right.
and I think you'd be surprised if you gave him a little bit more play. So that's what I encourage everybody to do. Just throw in 2 copies, and like I said, you can actually run 3, because if you hit him multiple times, he's there to come in. And
I mean, it's kind of like Gandalf a little bit without the enter play effect. Like
yeah,
like,
he almost imitates Tactics Immerhill, right? Because Immerhill is you pay a resource to get an ally into play from your deck from the top 5, and he just comes right out of your hand as someone to help you do combat. So yeah, give it a shot. And if you have any fun decks or have a good time with them, just let us know.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, there you have it. That's what we got to say about Tactics Elfhelm. Okay, everybody, join us again next week as we talk about more cards. Have a great day.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.